Neville said, "What you see ascending is your greater self. When that begins to ascend, you enter into the actual state of feeling you are what you want to be. That is the time you lull yourself into the mood of being what you want to be. Desire means having. By either experiencing in imagination what you would experience in reality, were you already that which you want to be? Or by repeating, this is the part I would like to focus on more today. He said, or by repeating over and over again the phrase that implies you have already done what you want to do. Now, I go all the way till the end on this one. I capture the feeling of having done my definite major purpose in life. And I want to share a personal experience with you regarding this. And he says, a phrase such as, "Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful?" As though some wonderful thing had happened to you. It's actually one of my top Neville autosuggestions. Isn't it wonderful? Alongside the one that he shared from Dr. Millikan, which you've heard me mention many times, which is, I have a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Now, as a result of these autosuggestions, what manifested was this program that I put together for entrepreneurs, career professionals. We have sales professionals on there. I'll link in the description to it. It manifested in a wonderful way, which proves that the statement, "Isn't it wonderful?" includes everything wonderful, appearing as different experiences on the bridge of incidents, which, when we look at those experiences, we say, that's wonderful. And also that feeling which results from the statement, "Isn't it wonderful?" is actually a continuum, as in you experience wonderful life experiences, and when you get to a destination, it's wonderful. And the journey continues. Further experiences, wonderful experiences, to another destination. Isn't it wonderful? And then it continues, again, again, and again. For eternity, as stated in the Hermetica, 2 gifts were bestowed upon humanity. They were mind and speech, and those 2 gifts are equal to immortality. So the story with respect to creating the program, a number of months ago, I was in Los Angeles, and I felt inspiration to have a conversation with my client, Ed, who built his business to earning over $200,000 a month, and also my client, Ruben Brooks, who built his business to earning over $150,000 a month. I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to record a conversation with them, each of them, and share it on my channel so that everyone can benefit from the experiences that they had, the realizations that they had, and the wisdom that they experienced on the journey to actualizing these visions, and they continue to excel. So I'll actually link in the description to those videos. Now, on my way back, I had this idea. I said, wouldn't it be wonderful to put together a program where it is built on that foundation of consulting in their businesses? And the idea arose to do it in a particular way, very much inspired by Neville. The premise of the program is threefold. Number 1, to earn a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Number 2, enjoy a wonderful lifestyle. Isn't it wonderful? Enjoy a wonderful lifestyle. And number 3, invest for the long term, to contribute to initiatives that help others. And recently I've been mentioning it on this channel. And right away we have 50 participants. And all of that arose naturally from what he said here. A phrase. Isn't it wonderful? And when it did appear, I said, that's wonderful. And I knew right then and there it was a result of accepting self, being as I am. Isn't it wonderful?
Going all the way to the end, having accomplished my definite major purpose in life.
And I didn't know that this was one way it was going to play out. It also plays out in my loving relationship with my girlfriend. It plays out in my relationship with my family. More and more so each day in increasing frequency on a continuous basis. And I also, when I put that program together, stamped it with flow, the word flow. So I call it flow-based prosperity. So all of that from a state of flow. So I want to go deeper into this because my own personal experiences with this, isn't it wonderful, actually resulted in a number of reflections, which I would like to further expand upon with you today in a way that benefits you so you can apply it to your life, whatever it is that you desire to experience. And we're going to go through some questions Neville was asked in which he brought it up at different points. So, only God appears through imagination. And by that I mean, there's only God within and without, above and below. Only God appears through what appears to God as the individual mind. What appears to the Father as the individual mind is a child of God, created in the perfect image of the Father. And the individual mind is always imagining what the Father appears as. Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. So in relation to isn't it wonderful, I acknowledge that isn't it wonderful represents that which you already are. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Any moment. Right now. Now is always the moment. Now is where all the power is. We capture the feeling of being. Isn't it wonderful? Capture the feeling by saying it to ourselves. Isn't it wonderful? And sure enough, it generates the thoughts, the behaviors, and the emotions flow from that state of being, that which you are. Isn't it wonderful? So he was asked the question, and this is very much related to some of the conversations we have in the sessions, the Zoom sessions. Again, I'll link in the description to that if you're interested in it. What must I do to inspire creative thoughts, such as those needed for writing? And this can be applied for writing, for your career, for your relationship, for your business, whatever you desire. He said, assume the story has already been written and accepted by a great publishing house. Reduce the idea of being a writer to the sensation of satisfaction. Repeat the phrase, isn't it wonderful? Or thank you, thank you, thank you, over and over again until you feel successful. Satisfaction, successful, fulfillment, love, happiness, peace are all associations to that feeling of being as you are. I am that. Fulfilled. Now one may think, where is this wonderful? And as a result of that, they may start to seek for visible signs, approval, validation, or confirmation. And that is not what I did. I simply accepted the end and abided as that. Abided as that I am. And that appeared that way as all those bridge of incidents leading up to it. And personally, I consider this as an ongoing manifestation. Why do I say that? Because every day, that's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. As a matter of fact, when I go back to the recordings we did on those sessions and the recordings that I've been doing over the recent years with consulting clients, and those of you that are my consulting clients listening to this know that I say it a lot. Wonderful. That's wonderful. Wonderful. And some might be thinking, why is Joseph saying that? Well, twofold. Number one is because it is wonderful. Whatever it is that I said, it's wonderful too. And they agree. Whatever it is, wonderful. And also, it's a manifestation. It's an acknowledgement of that I am. Being wonderful. By capturing the feeling I am wonderful, there is no separation between being and wonderful, just as there is no separation between being and love, being and fulfillment, being and happiness, being and peace. As he says here, your acceptance of the end wills its fulfillment. Go all the way till the end. By capturing the feeling, capture that feeling. You could certainly say, isn't it wonderful? Or thank you. Gratitude for that I am. And also, as he said, some might find it easier, as we've been discussing, to, as he says here, or imagine a friend congratulating you. There are unnumbered ways of implying success, but always go to the end. Your acceptance of the end wills its fulfillment. I consider wonderful the feeling of being wonderful, that which you truly are, regardless of interpretation in relation to appearances. What this person said, what this environment is suggesting, nothing is being suggested. We are the only suggester in relation to appearances. For example, right now, as we're having this conversation, you are relating to this conversation. And you can relate to it whatever way you desire. You could relate to it from the premise of being, a reflection of that being you are, which is emphasized as wonderful. Or a person might not choose to accept self. Here we speak of true self-acceptance. I am that. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? He says, do not think about getting in the mood to write, but live and act as though you are now the author you desire to be. Assume you have the talent for writing. Think of the pattern you want displayed on the outside. If you write a book and no one is willing to buy it, there is no satisfaction. Act as though people are hungry for your work. Live as though you cannot produce stories or books fast enough to meet the demand. Persist in the assumption, and all that is necessary to achieve your goal will quickly burst into bloom, and you will express it. Now, we've all experienced this in our lives. There were times where creativity, whatever it is, flowed effortlessly. My encouragement throughout these videos is to increase the frequency of that on a continuous basis. Everything you touch turns to gold. Why is that? We could say, and we discussed this recently, the individual that appears expresses God as an expression of God. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Through true self-acceptance, appears to express God as what we can call a purposeful life, or as Napoleon Hill referred to, definite major purpose, being on purpose, being appearing to be on purpose. And how does it appear? Creative ideas flow. You never run out of ideas. I've noticed this in my business journey, creative expressions, cultivating skills, like, for example, snowboarding, every area of my life. To the degree that I accept self, I am already that. which I desire to be. Desire arises, I am that. True self-acceptance. It automatically manifests as a wonderful journey of creative expression. You enjoy the different aspects on the journey to actualizing the vision because all you know is joy, because you are joy. And being as you are, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, isn't it wonderful? So we capture the feeling by disentangling our minds from the evidence of the senses. Be still and know that I am. Isn't it wonderful? Thank you. Thank you. And you don't actually even need, which he's going to discuss further in the next question we're going to explore, where he mentions, isn't it wonderful? To logically come up with reasons as to why. And this is a practice that is priceless. Why is it? From my experience in the earlier stages, I would notice that when I would do my autosuggestions, I would then go looking for visible signs, proof, validation, and confirmation. And if I didn't see what I perceived to be signs, approval, validation, or confirmation, I would forget that feeling of being that I am. And so I said, well, what if I don't do that? What if I make a habit of not doing that? What if I capture the feeling of being that I am? Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Isn't it wonderful? Capture the feeling of it. At that point, I didn't say, isn't it wonderful, or thank you. In the moment, capture the feeling. I am that feeling. And then what? You remain in that state. Something appears, you could say completely neutral to it. Or if I choose to, I could see God in that. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. For example, what could appear as a challenge, how is it an opportunity? This is one of our favorite conversations that we have in our sessions, where we explore how they're all opportunities. And sure enough, it is found. Because there's only God. Only God within and without, above and below, and only God appears through what appears to God as the individual mind. What appears to the Father as the individual mind is a child of God, created in the perfect image of the Father. Only God appears through imagination. Can you see God in all things? A celebration of life. The personal experiences that appear through the individual are celebrations of life, and God is life. The cause and substance of the entire phenomena of life is God. So can we experience God the way we desire to experience God? By acknowledging we are that. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Capturing the feeling by going all the way till the end. Capturing the feeling regardless of appearances. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. As mentioned, I stopped looking for signs, although that can appear that way, which then I could say, oh, that's a sign. That's fine. The nuance point is I don't go looking for it. Same with approval, same with validation, same with confirmation. The way I do this is gratitude. So I am that. Capture the feeling. Isn't it wonderful? Gratitude. That appears, and I say, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Anytime anyone hears me say, that's wonderful, wonderful. No, in that moment, I'm appreciating that. Gratitude. So feeling grateful within. I am that. Capturing the feeling. I am that, regardless of appearances. So to emphasize it further, he discusses it in this question that was asked. It was asked, is it possible to imagine several things at the same time? Or should I confine my imagining to one desire? See, if one thinks of imagining as just one sense or two sense or three, four, or five senses in imagination, they might miss what I refer to as the sixth sense, the feeling, the knowing, I am that, regardless of appearances physically, or we could even say mental phenomena. And what I mean by that is, as he says here, what would the feeling be like were you ecstatic, without knowing what had happened to produce your ecstasy? So I love this part here. Let's discuss it further. He said, what would the feeling be like were you ecstatic, without knowing what had happened to produce your ecstasy? As in, I'm not looking for visible causes. There is no other cause. There's only one cause, that I am. Only God appears and appears as all that appears and animates all that appears through what appears as the individual mind. Or another way of saying it, Neville had mentioned before, is God is dreaming this life. And so what am I imagining God to appear as? If I become identified, form an identity around the visible signs, the approval, validation, confirmation, then if those signs don't appear, will I still remain in that feeling? Will I still be as I am? Or would I allow that condition that I placed, a condition in mind, which is a belief, to result in thoughts or emotional responses that one may think seems to suggest that they are not that who they are? Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, ecstasy. You are ecstatic. Because as mentioned, emotions are energy in motion. I don't label them negatively, because that would form an identity around them. There's no problem with experiencing emotions. We discuss this in our conversations when we speak about alchemy, actually embracing emotions, falling in love with the resistance. In other words, not trying to resist the resistance, accepting yourself. True self-acceptance. Accepting body, mind, emotions. Otherwise, one may try to resist and thus persist in that resistance. So he said, reduce the idea of ecstasy to the single sensation. Isn't it wonderful? And here's the key. He says, do not allow the conscious reasoning mind to ask why. He says, it will start to look for visible causes. I would say, perhaps start to look for visible causes, because the way I relate to this is, if there's no belief identification in mind that says that you need to look for visible causes, then according to a higher reason, which transcends, which is, I am that, and whatever appears, I can see that I am. My reasoning mind works that way now, whereas back in the days, through particular belief identification, the reasoning mind resulted in thoughts that would appear in mind that, if identified with, would result in looking for visible causes. These thoughts, they arise from beliefs in mind, whether someone is aware of these beliefs or not. Because if they look for visible causes, what they think of as visible causes, those are effects. That is being imagined as appearances. If one looks for visible causes, then he says the sensation will be lost. So we could say, could be lost based on identification. He says, rather repeat over and over again. Isn't it wonderful? Suspend judgment as to what is wonderful. Catch the one sensation of the wonder of it all, and things will happen to bear witness to the truth of this sensation. And I promise you, it will include all the little things. And so, I agree, from personal experience, capturing the feeling of being that. Isn't it wonderful? Abide in that feeling. If anything appears that seems to deny that feeling, that is belief identification in relation to that appearance. Release that identification by allowing the emotions to be, allowing those thoughts in relation to that belief identification to be. And you'll acknowledge that you remain being as you are. Ecstatic. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an autosuggestion to further encourage. You can say, that I am. Isn't it wonderful? I am that. Isn't it wonderful? All that appears is God animating that I am. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Isn't it wonderful? Everywhere life appears, celebration. As I see that I am, only God appears and animates all that appears to reflect what I truly desire. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.